Today we discuss the summary of work rules insights from inside Google that will transform how you live and lead. You are listening this book summary on the YouTube channel Reader Book Zone. Let's start with Laszlo Bock work rules. How do you ensure that your employees are happy with their jobs? How do you paint a good reputation for your company? A lot of benefits go to a company when it has effective people practices and policies. One of them is that the employees will be committed to your company. When they are committed, they will help reach the company's objectives and goals. Google is one of the best examples when it comes to people practices. Their unique approaches in handling their employees can teach you a lot as a startup founder or entrepreneur. In this book, you will learn about how Google came from a humble background. You will learn why everyone knows them. You will learn what makes Google culture unique and beneficial for their employees. If you adopt the principles written in this book, you will begin to see enormous and incredible changes in your workforce. Start your journey today by reading this book and paying attention to your employees' needs. Improve your people practices through the help of Google as an example. Becoming a founder. Every great tale starts with an origin story. Do you know how Google began as a company? Google was founded by Larry Page and Sergey Brin. They met during a campus tour at Stanford University. Larry and Sergey came from different backgrounds, but they created Google together. Montessori schools inspired their ideas about how work could be done, since both founders went to Montessori as children. Larry and Sergey had plans beyond creating an effective search engine. They also aimed to understand how employees wanted to be treated. They wanted Google to be a place where work was meaningful and where employees were free to pursue their passions. It is where people and their families were cared for. But Google was not the only company that cared for its employees. Ford and Hershey's also have notable people practices that make employees feel satisfied with their work. Being a founder is not just some kind of title in a company or a sign of ownership. It is an attitude. As a leader, you should create opportunities for everybody. The most outstanding founders help others thrive. They make a space for other founders to grow beside them. With co-founders, you have the power to shape your company's story. Most especially, you can collaborate to make the company succeed. Employees at Google host tech talks each month, where they gather to share what they were working on. Google also granted stocks to its employees. They are one of the few companies who do this. More women are now drawn to computer science because of Google's efforts. Also, pets are welcome in Google, and this policy started with the first 10 employees. Google also offers free meals to its employees, which began with free cereal and an enormous bowl of M&Ms. In 1903, Milton S. Hershey founded not only the Hershey Company but the town of Hershey in Pennsylvania. At that time, the United States had over 2,500 company towns, housing about 3% of the population at their peak. But unlike company towns, Milton S. Hershey wanted a real hometown with tree-lined streets, single and two-family brick houses, and manicured lawns. There was also an inexpensive public transportation system, a quality public school system, and extensive recreational and cultural opportunities. For founders of companies that have notable people practices, they saw value in considering their workers as something more than money-making robots. For a company to succeed, the founders must help the employees thrive and have their needs satisfied. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Have you ever seen how Google offices look? While photos of Google offices are indicative of fun or work is play, culture is the most important thing for Google to keep their employees happy. To understand how culture works at Google, you should know the impact of mission, transparency, and voice. Most mission statements of companies focus on profit, customer satisfaction, or market leadership. These mission statements seem to be very business-oriented. However, at Google, the mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible. This statement points to a moral purpose rather than a business goal. Generally, employees become more motivated and productive when they see a purpose in their jobs. At Google, information is default to open. A newly hired software engineer can access almost all of Google's code on the first day. With transparency, employee performance improves, and people are able to do their jobs more effectively. Though there are certain degrees of transparency, if you value the people you work with, you should be as open as possible. Openness means you trust your employees enough and you believe in their good judgment. Lastly, voice means giving employees a say in how the company is being run. Through the help of employees voicing out their opinions, high-quality decisions can be made and the organization can become more effective. Culture should be prioritized over other goals, as this can help your company maintain integrity and retain employees. Remember that brilliant and talented professionals will always go to places where work is meaningful. It is where they can contribute to the organization's success. As Google grew from dozens to thousands of employees, the shared belief in the company's mission united most Googlers. One example of putting the mission statement of the company into action was when Google Street View was developed in 2007. After a few years of looking at overhead maps, founder Larry Page asked why they couldn't also capture how places actually looked like. Through Google Street View, billions of people with internet access can now see how famous and interesting spots. For instance, you can now see the Arc de Triomphe in France, base camps in Mt. Everest, and the sea creatures of Galapagos Islands. It's also possible to see how communities grow and change over time. Google Street View had helped governments in determining how to create safer spaces and where to allocate their scarce resources. This project helped a lot of people. But Street View also helped the Google employees get more involved in the company. How? It enabled Googlers to create wonderful things and fulfill a moral purpose of working as well as helping other people at the same time. Lake Wobegon, where all the new hires are above average. How do you make sure that your employees can do their job well? Do you hire the best person suitable for the job? Or do you hire average people and train them to be the best? There are 3 reasons why you should review your company's hiring and training process. First, there are very few companies who succeed in training their employees well. Second, if companies are great at recruiting, their process must be special enough to make them hire the best of the best. Third, most people assigned to interview applicants are not very good at interviewing. Some company representatives are biased. Training alone is not the only answer to obtain the best employees because designing an effective training program is difficult. Some experts would point out that 90% of training doesn't lead to sustained improvement in employees. Most companies waste their money on training that does not ensure high-quality performance. What is often missed out is the importance of recruitment. Companies should invest more in hiring exceptional talent. But you should keep in mind that this process takes time if you want to have excellent employees. One way to hire the best person is to hire someone who you think is better than you in some way. In addition, you should also have managers that are willing to give up power when it comes to hiring. Managers should have objective standards, and they should remain unbiased. They should not be the only ones who get to decide on who should be hired. Here's an example of how you should hire someone who is better than you. Laszlo Bock is the author of this book and the Senior Vice President for People Operations at Google. When hiring, he chooses the candidates who are better than him in a certain way. Nancy Lee is the leader of diversity and youth education programs in Google. Bock hired Nancy because she has a clear vision and fearlessness which Bock admires. Karen May is the VP for People Development. Bock chose Karen because she has higher emotional intelligence and she is a more thoughtful counselor. Meanwhile, Sunil Chandra is the VP for Staffing and People Services. Bock thought that Sunil is more disciplined and insightful than him. Sunil can also make any process cheaper, better, and faster for users. Laszlo Bock also notes how he can learn from Nancy, Karen, Sunil, and his other team members every day. It took a long time for Bock to hire them. Hiring exceptional talent requires a longer recruitment process because only 10% of the candidate pool will be top performers. It is a must to go through more screening and interviews. In fact, the top performers in the industry might not even be looking for work because they are already enjoying success right where they are. Hiring exceptional talent takes time, but when they come, it is always worth the wait. Don't trust your gut. Do you agree with the claim that the first 10 seconds of a job interview determines whether an applicant will get hired or not? If an interviewer likes you initially, she will find reasons to like you even more. If an interviewer doesn't feel good about you, she will find reasons to reject you. Rather than truly assessing an applicant, Most interviewers have a confirmation bias. This is when a person looks for information that confirms his or her beliefs. However, there are ways to prevent confirmation bias among interviewers and company owners. First, set a high bar for quality. Be clear about the attributes you want to look for in a candidate. Do not compromise the quality of candidates for greater speed in recruitment. Second, find your own candidates by searching through career sites and professional associations. Third, assess candidates objectively. There are several kinds of techniques you can use for assessing applicants. You can ask for work samples, let them take general cognitive tests, then conduct formal and informal interviews. Studies have shown that combinations of assessment techniques are better than using a single assessment technique. Lastly, you should give candidates a reason to join your company. You want them to have a memorable first-time experience in your office. About 80% of people who got rejected from Google recommend their friends to also apply. Feedback is important as well. That is why in Google, interviewers take notes of the applicant's answers so that other interviewers can make better assessments. Moreover, Google does not limit interviews to managers and executives only. The older employees, the ones who are already in the team, assess the applicants too. This further ensures that Google chooses only the best people, those who have potential to become top performers. In 2011, the Dalai Lama was invited by Archbishop Desmond Tutu to give a speech on the Archbishop's 80th birthday. Both Dalai Lama and Archbishop Tutu are Nobel Peace Prize awardees. Their personal meeting would be a historic event. But the Chinese government intervened, and the African National Congress did not issue a travel visa for the Dalai Lama. This disappointed Archbishop Tutu. At that time, a newly hired Googler named Loren Groves just launched his first product. Loren arranged a meeting between the Dalai Lama and Archbishop via Google Hangout, which allowed them to speak face-to-face despite being 1,000 miles apart. This was the highlight of the celebration, and Google advertised this remarkable moment in the New York Times. This initiative was sparked by Loren, who had been a Googler for only 5 days. Why everyone hates performance management and what we decided to do about it. All our lives, we've been rated in terms of our performance. At work, companies rate the performance of employees during specific periods. Performance evaluation is important since it allows employees to know if they have achieved the company's goals or their own personal goals. Furthermore, performance evaluation is useful for company decisions with regards to raising an employee's pay or promoting an employee. Most performance management processes of companies often take time and do not provide feedback for the employees, which leaves them dissatisfied. Some managers also have certain biases that may affect the credibility and accuracy of the performance ratings, which makes the employees feel that the ratings are unfair. How does Google deal with these challenges, and how can you apply it in your own team or company? First, set goals correctly. Make the goals known to everyone and make them ambitious. At the beginning of each quarter, Larry Page sets objectives and key results, or OKRs. Every employee should sync their personal OKRs with Google's. Objectives are big long-term goals, while key results are smaller goals which lead to achieving the objectives. Personal OKRs are available for everyone to look up on Google's internal website. This helps employees keep track of each other's performance. Second, gather peer feedback. Managers should not be the only ones who give feedback. The members of the team should also review each other's performance. Third, use a calibration process. In this calibration process, managers should sit together and justify their ratings for every employee that is being evaluated. This helps reduce biases and enhances a better performance management process. Lastly, separate the rewards and development conversations when you explain performance ratings to an employee. Google's annual performance reviews usually happen in November, and the pay discussions happen a month later. This is because Google believes that development is a whole different thing from rewards. It's not all rainbows and unicorns. No organization is perfect. Mistakes are being made most of the time, but the important thing is how the company learns from its mistakes and faces consequences. Do you agree with this? Just like any other company, Google also made when it comes to their people practices. For Google, the challenge was to stay true to its values and to continue doing the right thing even when tested. When someone in the company makes a mistake, may it be a manager or an employee, it should be known to everyone. Transparency is important. Everyone should be aware of the situation so that they can avoid what needs to be avoided. Another thing you should keep in mind is the importance of rejecting entitlement. Sometimes, when you receive something, you feel like you deserve it and you can do anything with it. This is an unavoidable feeling, but a certain degree of accountability should be practiced by employees when they are given benefits by the company. Take counsel from all directions. This means that everyone should be included in the decision-making process of the company. Some employees might be too shy or too hesitant to voice out their opinions even when they are given the chance to talk. Even if it takes time, it is essential to ask for everyone's opinions about a proposed change or policy in the company. Fix whatever broke. If your employees are facing a dilemma, make sure to be at the forefront and provide immediate solutions to the problems. Once it is fixed, you should find the moral in the mistake and teach it to others. In 2008, the chef at Google offered a dessert on the lunch menu and named it Free Tibet Goji Chocolate Cream Pie with Macadamia Coconut Date Crust. Shortly after this menu was posted, a Googler sent an email to the management and said that he will quit in protest if Google does not explain about the dish. The goji berries that Google's chef made on that day were from Tibet, and basically all dishes in Google were free. That's why he named it that way. The dish began a heated discussion among the Googlers since there is a political issue about whether Tibet should be freed from China. Sadly, the chef was suspended by his manager for 3 days. This made Laszlo Bock to think about the importance of freedom of speech in Google. If Googlers feel that they can be punished for something trivial like this, how can they trust Google to stay true to their mission? Bock resolved the issue by letting the chef come back to work as he had done nothing bad. More than 24 Googlers thanked Bock and the management for doing so since freedom of speech was very much important to them. Sparking a debate was never a crime. Conclusion. In this book, you have learned about the importance of people practices in keeping employees satisfied. You have learned this through looking at Google as a model company. You have learned that being a founder of a company entails giving people opportunities to thrive and to grow. You have learned about the impact of culture on a company. A company's mission is not just about gaining profit or serving customers the best possible way. It is about a moral purpose. Once employees feel that they are working to help the community, they will never feel like their work is a burden. You have also learned to invest more in recruitment than in training. Hiring exceptional talent takes time and effort, but it is always worth the wait. Give them a reason to join your company. Moreover, you have learned that managers should not be the only ones to rate employees on their work performance. Peers and subordinates should also be included in the performance appraisal so that all factors are accurately considered. Lastly, you have learned about how to manage mistakes and flaws with regard to your company's people practices. Mistakes should be admitted and made known to everyone so that the company can learn from it. Leading others entails big responsibility. Are you ready to take on the challenges of being a leader? Indeed, it is not easy to manage people in a company. You will encounter many obstacles, especially when you handle people with different mindsets, personalities, and backgrounds. However, you should remember that you are a leader for a reason. Your influence or authority is not the only thing that should keep you going in terms of leading others. You should lead because you want to help others grow and reach milestones in life. Remember that people are vital in an organization, so make sure to bring them with you as you take the path to success.